অধ্যাপক অনিশ রায়ের স্মরণ সভায় এখানে হাজির হয়েছি। আমরা এই স্মরণ সভায় দিল্লি, চেন্নাই এবং কলকাতা তিনটে জায়গা থেকে হাইব্রিড মোডে হবে। আমরা হলের বাইরে প্রয়াত অধ্যাপকের প্রতি শ্রদ্ধা জ্ঞাপন করে হলের ভেতর ঢুকব। সেখানে ঠিক 3:30 মিনিটে আমরা প্রোগ্রাম শুরু করব। প্রথমেই প্রয়াত অধ্যাপক অনিশ রায়ের প্রতি মাল্যার্পণ করবেন অল ইন্ডিয়া সেভ এডুকেশন কমিটির অন্যতম সহসভাপতি এবং সারা বাংলা সেভ এডুকেশন কমিটির সভাপতি অধ্যাপক চন্দ্রশেখর। এরপরে অধ্যাপক অনিশ রায়ের প্রতিকৃতিতে মাল্যদান করবেন অল ইন্ডিয়া সেভ এডুকেশন কমিটির সম্পাদক মন্ডলীর সদস্য দেবাশিস রায়। মাল্যার্পণ করবেন অল বেঙ্গল সেভ এডুকেশন কমিটির সম্পাদক অধ্যাপক প্রফ। আমরা এরপরে হলে প্রবেশ করব। যারা প্রয়াত অধ্যাপক অনিশ রায়ের প্রতি শ্রদ্ধা জ্ঞাপন করার জন্য মালা বা ফুল নিয়ে এসেছেন তাদের একা এক করে আপনাদের মালা বা ফুল প্রয়াত অধ্যাপকের প্রতি অর্পণ করুন। যারা শিখতে চান এখানে ফুল রাখা আছে, এসে এক এক করে পুষ্পস্তবক বা পুষ্প ফুল আছে
Now, Torah tribute will be paid by Vishwajit Mitro, Treasurer of All India Sev Education Committee.
আমরা
Now, Professor Miratul Nahar will pay oral tribute to the portrait of Professor Anish Kumar. Professor Miratul Nahar is member of the Presidium All Bengal Civil Education Committee and advisor of All India Civil Education Committee.
Very good afternoon, everyone who have joined this memorial meeting of Professor Anish Kumar Rai. We from All India Civic Education Committee, Tamil Nadu chapter, we have joined in the hybrid mode now. Now, on behalf of All India Civic Education Committee, I propose Professor Durbajodi Mukherjee, advisor to the All India Civic Education Committee, to preside over this memorial meeting. I'm Tilakar, joined from Chennai. Am I audible? May I speak? Am I audible? A very good afternoon to all who have joined this hybrid mode meeting on the occasion of the observing Memorial Day of Professor Anish Kumar Rai. We have joined from Chennai to hybrid mode. Now I propose Professor Durbajodi Mukherjee, advisor to the All India Civic Education Committee, to preside over this memorial meeting.
I'm Sharda Dikshit from Delhi chapter, and we have joined this memorial meeting from. I'm Sharda Dikshit from Delhi chapter. Accepting the proposal presented by Tilagarji for the president. For the this meeting. Preside over the meeting.
So we are going to start the memorial meeting. First, I request Professor Durbajyoti Mukherjee, member of the Presidium of AISEC and President of this meeting, to pay floral tribute to Professor Anish Kumar Rai, our departed beloved General Secretary.
I now request Professor Pradeep Mohapatra from Assam to read the condolence resolution. Professor Pradeep Mohapatra from Assam.
তো ডিমাপাতে ঢুকেছেন? স্টিমেটে ঢোকেনি এখনো? তাহলে আমরা অন্য প্রেসিডেন্ট নিজেই পড়ে তাহলে একটা প্রেসিডেন্ট নিজেই পড়ে দিচ্ছে।
There is some technological problems. So on behalf of the All India Civic Education Committee, I am reading out the condolence resolution. This national meeting of the All India Civic Education Committee expresses its profound grief at the demise of Professor Dr. Anish Kumar Rai, General Secretary of the All India Civic Education Committee on 29th November after a prolonged battle with a serious illness. Professor Rai was a distinguished educationist, former associate professor of geology at the Presidency College, Kolkata, who played an important role in the education movement in the country. He was a very successful teacher, attracting students not only by his teaching, but also by his character and integrity, his standing up what he thought was right and just. His students had great love and respect for him, sought his advice and guidance in career and in life. Many considered him as their guardian, maintaining lifelong relationships. He did not confine himself to his subject and the classroom, but was deeply moved by the pain and sufferings he saw around him, the problems of the less fortunate and the oppressed and the dispossessed. He firmly believed that the doors of education should be open to every child. The education is the birthright of everyone, and that it is the duty of the government to provide free education for all from the highest to the lowest level. After the demise of Professor Gauri Shankar Khatak, the then General Secretary of the All India Civic Education Committee, in November 2014, Professor Rai became the General Secretary and successfully led the organization for 8 long years. Under his tireless and deeply involved stewardship, the All India Civic Education Committee gained strength in different states of the country. He was a general leading from the front. He was a tireless writer, and with his experience and keen and deep knowledge gained from the struggles on various issues of education, he could grasp the issues relating to education very promptly. He volunteered to pen almost all important documents of the All India Civic Education Committee. After the BJP-led union government released the draft national education policy in 2019, DNAP 2019, and finally and unilaterally adopted the disastrous NEP 2020 on 29th July 2020 in the midst of the COVID pandemic. The AISEC, under the leadership of Professor Dr. Anish Kumar Rai, responded to this onslaught immediately. During the COVID-19 pandemic, and subsequent lockdown, he stressed on the need to hold a series of online protest programs in which he played a leading role. On a number of occasions, despite his bad health, he would address the webinars from the hospital beds on the advice of the with the permission of the attending doctors. Before lockdown, he had visited different states and inspired the education-loving people and the teaching community that the only way to resist the onslaught of the NEP 2020 and to save education was to build up a strong countrywide movement from the grassroots upwards, putting in painstaking efforts that the fight, he stressed that the fight was not just against a policy, but a fight to save education, human values, and civilization itself. In the last All India Conference held on 30th and 31st October 2021, he was unanimously re-elected as the General Secretary of AISEC in May 2020. In spite of his ill health and defying the scorching heat of Delhi, he enthusiastically attended the mass dharna and inspired those gathered from different states of the country to take forward the battle dauntlessly throughout the country. When the central government recently declared its intent to impose Hindi as the sole official language and medium of instruction, undermining the importance of English, the AISEC organized an All India webinar on 27th November 2022 as a step to thwart this design. The stand of the AISEC on language problem was drafted in a masterly way by Professor Ray from the hospital bed. This was the last task that he performed for the AISEC. With his modest and gentle behavior, without an iota of self-conceit, he endeared himself to whomsoever he met. At the same time, they sense that inner steel of resolve in him that would not admit of defeat when faced with a problem. He inspired belief in the cause through his actions and discussions. In his demise, the AISEC has lost an inspiring, efficient, and worthy General Secretary, and the country has lost a great fighter for the cause of education. We will miss his presence, but in his absence, let us all, family, friends, colleagues, comrades in arms, not mourn him, but remember the wonderful person that he was, take inspiration from his active and meaningful struggle, and honor him by pledging to carry on with the battle ahead, however daunting the forces we are resisting, or however onerous the battle ahead may seem. This meeting pays its deepest respect to the struggle of Professor Dr. Anish Kumar Rai and offers sincere condolence to his family and countless admirers. I have read the condolence resolution. I would now request you to stand up and observe 1 minute silence to pay respect to his memory. Please take your seat. As you know, this memorial meeting is held offline at 3 cities, Kolkata, Chennai, and Delhi, and are being simultaneously coordinated. It is also there is live stream also on Facebook and YouTube, and in many districts in West Bengal and throughout the country, they have organized people who are watching this meeting on the wide screens. So I request now Professor Tarun Kanti Noshkar, the Secretary of the West Bengal All India Safe Education, West Bengal chapter of the All India Safe Education Committee, and a Vice President of the Safe Education Committee to coordinate and conduct the meeting. Thank you.
Friends, President of AISEC, Prakash N. Shah, he is today busy with a conference of literatures of Gujarat. It was his pre-assigned program, so he could not attend the meeting, this memorial meeting, and he has sent a pre-recorded speech. So I now request to play the pre-recorded speech of Prakash N. Shah, the President of AISEC.
rather with a heavy heart that I may I'm joining you in paying my tributes to Anish Rai. When I pronounce his name as Anish Rai, I feel a bit formal because in Gujarati tradition I used to address him as Anish Bhai, and he also liked it. His role as secretary of the committee, education committee, was rather pioneering in a sense that we had started refunctioning after lapse, and then he took it up in all jest, full of life and commitment. Friends, it is rather with a heavy heart that I'm joining you in paying my tributes to Anish Rai. When I pronounce his name as Anish Rai, I feel a bit formal because in Gujarati tradition I used to address him as Anish Bhai, and he also liked it. His role as secretary of the committee, education committee, was rather pioneering in a sense that we had started refunctioning after lapse, and then he took it up in all jest, full of life and commitment. But he also had a regret, and both of us shared it, that because of Corona, this rash happened, ably helped and guided by Comrade Devashish Roy, could not go as further as we wanted to. He had great tips. And I always told him, but you are younger to me. And he also appreciated that maybe there is not much difference, 3-4 years or so, but then my being older keeps it younger, and he pulled it in his own way. But destiny has willed otherwise. He has left us, and we are all, paying tribute to him, uh, paying my respect and condolences to Baudi also. I would simply add one thing, that his leaving us has bestowed us with a greater responsibility, and hopefully, despite of my age factor and health factor, I would be happy to work more so as to uh, pay tribute to him. May he rest in peace. Alvida, Anish Bhai.
Problem, the pre-recorded message of Prakash Shah you could not listen to, but I think other halls and the listeners in YouTube and Facebook, they could listen. Hope that. Now I will read out the condolence message of Bimal Chatterjee. He is former Advocate General of West Bengal and member of the Presidium AISEC. He has sent this message in Bengali. So I will read out. অল্প সময়ে আমার দেখা প্রয়াত অধ্যাপক অনিশ রায়। অনিশ রায়ের সঙ্গে আমার পরিচয় ও আলাপ অল্প দিনের, বছর দেড় কি দুই হবে, তাও সাক্ষাতে নয়, বেশিরভাগটাই টেলিফোনে আর বাকিটা বৈদ্যুতিন প্রযুক্তির সহায়তা। তার সঙ্গে পরিচয়ের উপলক্ষ ছিল অল ইন্ডিয়া সেভ এডুকেশন কমিটির কার্যবিধি আর মাধ্যম ছিলেন বন্ধুবর অধ্যাপক তরুণ নস্কর। আমরা তিনজনেই সর্বৈব মুক্ত শিক্ষার উপাসক এবং সমর্থক। মুক্ত শিক্ষা সম্পর্কে আমাদের নিজেদের মধ্যে দৃষ্টিভঙ্গির অল্প বিস্তর ব্যবধান বা পার্থক্য থাকলেও সেই দৃষ্টিভঙ্গি কখনোই সমান্তরাল ছিল না। আমরা সমভাবী ছিলাম, অর্থাৎ অমিল বা গরমিলের অপেক্ষা মিলই ছিল বেশি। অনিশবাবু অল ইন্ডিয়া সেভ এডুকেশন কমিটির মাননীয় সম্পাদক ছিলেন এবং সেই অবস্থানে আমি তাকে বেশি দেখেছি। তার নিরলস কর্মযজ্ঞ যথার্থই ওই কমিটিকে সমৃদ্ধ করেছে। শারীরিক দুর্বলতা বা অসুস্থতাকে কোনোদিনই অনিশবাবু সেই কর্মযজ্ঞে প্রশ্রয় দেননি। অশক্ত শরীরেও তিনি কখনো কর্তব্যচ্যুত হননি। উদ্দেশ্যের প্রতি তার অনমনীয় বিশ্বাস এবং শ্রদ্ধা সকলের কাছে আদর্শনীয় ছিল। ওনার অবর্তমানে অল ইন্ডিয়া সেভ এডুকেশন কমিটি অবশ্যই ভীষণভাবে ক্ষতিগ্রস্ত হলো। সেই ক্ষতি পূরণ করা আমাদের পক্ষে দুরূহ। মানুষ হিসেবে তার ব্যবহার বাচনভঙ্গি ছিল নিতান্তই আদর্শ অধ্যাপক সুলভ। তিনি ছিলেন মিতভাষী। ওনার আবেগহীন, পরিচ্ছন্ন, সুঠাম, মেদশূন্য কথা ছিল জ্ঞানগর্ভ। সেই জ্ঞানগর্ভ সংক্ষিপ্ত ভাষণ ওনাকে অনেকের কাছেই আরো আদর্শনীয় করে তুলেছিল। উনি পরিচিত কি অপরিচিত কারুকেই অসম্মান করে বা আঘাত দিয়ে কথা বলতে পারতেন বলে আমার কখনো মনে হয়নি। ওনার অবর্তমানে আমার একটি দুঃখ যে ওনার সঙ্গে আরো আগে এবং বেশি সময় পরিচয় হলে আমি আরো সমৃদ্ধ হতে পারতাম, সেটা আর হলো না। বন্ধুবর অধ্যাপক তরুণ নস্করকে ওনার সঙ্গে পরিচয় করানোর জন্য সাধুবাদ জানাই, কিন্তু সেই সঙ্গে সঙ্গে ওনাকে আমি নিন্দাবাদও করি এই কারণে যে অনিশ রায়ের সঙ্গে আমার আরো আগে পরিচয় না করানোর জন্য। স্বর্গত অধ্যাপক অনিশ রায়ের আত্মার প্রতি আমার আন্তরিক এবং সশ্রদ্ধ প্রণাম জানাই এবং সর্বমঙ্গলময় ঈশ্বরের কাছে ওনার আত্মার চিরশান্তি প্রার্থনা করি। বিমল কুমার চ্যাটার্জি, 12 ডিসেম্বর 2022। Now I will announce the names of members of AISEC and dignitaries who are seated in different corners of the country. So first, I request Professor Sochidananda Sinha, member of the Presidium AISEC, to deliver his speech. And I would also request all the speakers, since it is a online and hybrid mode of program, so I request them to try to confine their speech within 5 minutes. Thanking you all. Professor Sochidananda Sinha.
Mr. Sachidanand Sinha is going to connect.
हेलो हाँ वो जस्ट
I request Professor Sachidananda Sinha to deliver his condolence speech. Professor Sinha.
मेरे ख्याल से आप सभी मेरी आवाज सुन पा रहे हैं. Am I audible? क्या आप मेरी आवाज सुन पा रहे हैं? हेलो,
अनम्यूट तो करा আছে.
क्या am I audible? Please, organizers, I am joining from Delhi. My name is Sachidanand Sinha. Am I audible? क्या मेरी आवाज आप तक पहुंच रही है? Am I audible? जी, ओके. ऑल इंडिया सिविल एजुकेशन कमेटी के तत्वाधान में आयोजित इस मेमोरियल मीटिंग जो प्रोफेसर अनीश कुमार रे के की श्रद्धांजलि के ऊपर मनाया जा रहा है, एक दुखद दिन है हमारे इस कैंपेन के लिए, सेव एजुकेशन कमेटी के लिए भी, क्योंकि हमने एक बहुत ही सक्षम, एक जुझारू साथी खो दिया. प्रोफेसर अनीश कुमार रे सब केवल 79 इयर्स के, उनकी उम्र को देख के कभी अंदाजा नहीं लगाया जा सकता है कि उनके अंदर लड़ने की, समाज में बहुत सारी चीजों को सुधारने की जो एक ललक थी, एक जुझारू मन था. काफी उम्र के शुरू के दिनों से ही वो ट्यूबरकुलोसिस से परेशान थे और देखिए 80 साल तक लगभग उनका ये जुझारू मन जो था उसने उनके शरीर का साथ दिया. श्री रे को मैं पिछले 5 साल से ही जानता हूँ और मेरा उनसे संबंध सेव एजुकेशन कमेटी के ही द्वारा संभव भी हो पाया, और इसलिए जब उनके बारे में बोलने और जानने की इच्छा हुई तो मैंने थोड़ा सा शोध करने की कोशिश की. शोध क्या, हमारे बहुत सारे छात्र हैं प्रेसिडेंसी में और भाग्यशाली था मैं कि अनीश कुमार रे साहब के एक छात्र से मुलाकात हुई और उन्होंने बहुत सारी बातें हमें बताई. मेरे ख्याल से अनीश कुमार रे साहब तब से पढ़ा रहे हैं जब शायद मैं पैदा नहीं हुआ था, और मेरी उम्र देख के आप भी अंदाजा लगा सकते हैं कि उनका कितना लंबा एक वक्त रहा है प्रेसिडेंसी में. 1953 में वो बीएससी के स्टूडेंट बने जियोलॉजी डिपार्टमेंट में, और उनके पिताजी भी शायद जियोलॉजी डिपार्टमेंट से ही संबंधित थे. तो पिता और बेटे ने मिलकर जियोलॉजी के, उस समय जबकि बहुत ज्यादा जियोलॉजिस्ट हमारे देश में इनकी प्रायः प्रचुरता नहीं थी, बहुत कम ही लोग थे, तब इन्होंने बीड़ा उठाया और मेरे ख्याल से प्रेसिडेंसी कॉलेज के अंदर जियोलॉजी डिपार्टमेंट एक समृद्ध डिपार्टमेंट के तौर पे उभरा. उनका जो शोध था वो कच्छ के इलाके में, और ये उनकी जो पीएचडी थीसिस बाद में उन्होंने तिरुचिरापल्ली, दक्षिण भारत में भी, असम में भी काफी सारा काम किया। उनके कुछ क्योंकि मैं जोग्राफर हूं तो ये मौका मिलता है कि हम देख सकते हैं, प्रोफेशन लगभग एक जैसा रहा है, तो हमें कुछ अंदाजा लगता है कि भाई किसने क्या कंट्रीब्यूट किया होगा, इनका क्या योगदान रहा है। अनीश कुमार रे सिर्फ एक भूगर्भ शास्त्री ही नहीं थे, उन्होंने पैलियोंटोलॉजी पे पहली बार, अगर कहूं मैं कि पूरे पूर्व और उत्तर पूर्व के इलाके में अगर पैलियोंटोलॉजी सब्जेक्ट का ये जो शुरुआत होती है वो इनके कर कमलों द्वारा ही होता है। और आप ये समझ सकते हैं कि किसी भी एक नए विभाग और विभाग के अंदर कोई नई दिशा तब भी, और इसीलिए शायद सेव एजुकेशन कमेटी की ये बहुत बड़ी मंशा रही है कि हम हायर एजुकेशन और स्कूल एजुकेशन के चरित्र को भी बदलें। सुधार की आवश्यकता है, लेकिन जिस दिशा में सुधार की मंशा सरकार की है वो शायद मेरे ख्याल से काउंटर प्रोडक्टिव है, जिसके बारे में हम सभी काफी विमर्श कर चुके हैं, और मेरे ख्याल से उस पर ज्यादा विमर्श करने की इस समय आज की तारीख में जरूरत नहीं है। लेकिन सिर्फ उतना ही नहीं, एक पैलेंटोलॉजी का सब्जेक्ट शुरू करना और उसमें लोगों को प्रेरित करना कि वो उस तरह के विषय में को भी स्टडी करें, जबकि साधन संसाधन के लेवल पे, कॉलेज के स्तर पे मैं नहीं समझता कि 1960 के दशक में जब ये सिलसिला शुरू था तब तो शायद मैं स्कूल भी नहीं पहुंचा था, और तब शायद इतना बड़ा बीड़ा उठाना मेरे ख्याल से ये हिम्मत की बात है। और ये वही कर सकता है जिसके अंदर चीजों को बदलने की बहुत बड़ी इच्छा हो, और सिर्फ इच्छा ही ना हो, उसके साथ चाहे संगठन हो या ना हो, लोग साथ आए या नहीं आए, अकेले चलने की भी ताकत उस दुर्बल शरीर में जिसको हम सभी जानते हैं, और जितना भी हम जानते हैं उस दुर्बलता के अंदर एक एक जिद्दी मन, एक वो जुझारू मन मेरे ख्याल से बहुत कम देखने को मिलता है। मेरी श्रद्धांजलि सिर्फ इसलिए नहीं कि मैंने एक मित्र खोया है, और मेरा जो भी उनसे सरोकार बना, एक इतने मृदुल स्वभाव के इंसान जो आप जिनको ना भी कहना चाहें तो शायद आप ना नहीं कह सकते, उनका आग्रह इस तरह से होता था, और कोई रोज रोज का संबंध नहीं था, यानी कि दिल्ली से कलकत्ता, लेकिन जब भी मौका मिला है मेरे ख्याल से एक मृदुल स्वभाव, एक बहुत ही सुलझे हुए मन, और एक अच्छे मित्र के तौर पे मैं उनको याद करूंगा, और इसलिए भी याद करूंगा क्योंकि उन्होंने इन सारी मुश्किलातों के बावजूद जी, हेलो हेलो, क्या आप सुन पा रहे हैं? पता नहीं, कैन यू हियर मी? आई डोंट नो, should I go back?
Finished. Professor Sinha. Next हम बोलेंगे। Now I request Professor A. Johar Nishan. He is former Vice Chancellor and member of Presidium. I request Professor Nishan to pay his homage to Professor Anish Kumar Rai.
a great advocate for the cause of education, Professor Anish Kumar Ray, and his premature demise is a great loss to the country, not only to the country, and to the All India Safe Education Committee, and especially people like me who very closely worked with him for the last couple of years, especially after the advent of National Education Policy 2020. Especially when the country is heading towards a wholesale crisis, and when the society is going through a deep psychologically troubled conditions due to the prevailing socio-economic and political conditions, education is expected to play a major role. And for that purpose only, for a democratic, secular, educational mottos, our Professor Rai has been voicing for. He has been instrumental in so many ways. He has to be remembered not like only a leader, but a great soldier for education, for the cause of education. And as a lieutenant of AISEC, he traveled across the country and he consolidated and he sought solidarity across the country from a diverse segments of the society. And then he propelled AISEC in the greatest manner that is unparalleled for any organization, for that matter, if you consider. Especially if I could recollect my association with him. One time, Professor Rai called me about 10 o'clock night. And we spoke up to midnight, 12 o'clock. And a couple of times we had to go over phone, exchange a lot of ideas and our plans. And it was a great time, especially to share and to seek opinions and ideas on our goals and our actions. Such a person of highest humility, he has no barrier between him and the other walks of life, be it aged or young. He had the ability to communicate to the youths and also to the highly respectable senior citizens. So in that manner, I think that we have to remember him by only following the footsteps of the models, the footsteps and the qualities that he cherished throughout his life. And I heard from our colleagues that until his last breath, he was talking about education, and he started writing something about the new events that we were planning in the AISEC. See, when people around the country, and especially those at the helm of affairs, have ignored and neglected the pressing moments that this country faces, and Professor like Rai, we have to emulate him in all our endeavors, and the qualities that he cherished is what we have to practice. And I feel that that is the way that we have to remember him, and we have to pay our tributes to him. And when I first encountered with him, with some dialogues and some critiques and critical exchange of ideas, and I could sense how far he was in his thoughts, and how far he was so rational and logical and experienced and seasoned in his attitudes, thoughts, and ideas. So afterwards, I found that there is no need to talk to him to explain my viewpoints, because, as always, some proverbs say that don't convert the converts. Like that, he is already converted into what we are looking for, into what this country is looking for. And he had proved that he deserves to be remembered by all of us, by following his footsteps, his legacy, and the qualities and the attitudes. He is a holistic, complete human being. He's a holistic, complete. You look at him as a leader, yes, as an educator, as an academician, and as an activist, as a soldier at the end of the day. And this is what I would remember him. And we have to take the experience and the exemplary activities and the deeds and virtues he stood for. I think that it is a lesson for all of us, especially to me. And it is a great loss personally to me, because the last few years I have destined to dedicate in many ways for the cause of education. And I am determined to wage a great war against the perpetrators, against the oppressors of education. And I lost a hand now, a great hand, who was inspirational, who was instrumental, who was supportive, who was caring. The other beautiful thing that I could see from him is a great listener. That is a great quality. Even hours together, he can listen, and he can reflect logically without even, damaging or obstructing others' feelings. And I think that in that way that we also have lost a great human being. And my heart goes to those who he left behind, his family members, and also to our AISEC fraternity. Let us take a forward movement ahead. And that is what Professor Ray would have expected from us. And I request all colleagues to follow his footsteps, and let us march ahead to achieve our goals. And that is the way that we have to pay our tributes to him. And hail Professor Anish Kumar Ray. And dear colleagues, thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to say a few words about a great personality whom we lost. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you, Professor John Mission. Now I request Professor Chandrasekhar Chakraborty, Vice President of AISEC and President of All Bengal Safe Education Committee. He is former Vice Chancellor. Professor Chandrasekhar Chakraborty. Friends, this afternoon we are here to pay our homage to a person who was a very common man with many uncommon features. A man who lived a very simple life, but his thought was above the general people. My contact with Professor Ray was not very much long, but only within last few years. First, I met him in a conference where the draft NEP was placed and discussed in a meeting in a Kolkata Press Association. After that, we had a number of interactions in different meetings as well as over telephone. Just now we have heard from different people about the contribution of Dr. Ray, his educational qualification, Dr. Ray as a teacher, Dr. Ray as a scholar, Dr. Ray as a good person, Dr. Ray as a good administrator who has developed the All India Safe Education Committee in a very nice way all over India with the strength that we are fighting. Possibly we are the lone organization fighter against the central government who are trying to impose such a very dangerous policy which will destruct our nation within a few years. Dr. Ray believed that this policy will divide the rich and poor. That division was already existing. But what will happen? The poor will not get any chance to enter into higher education or even in lower education also, because whenever there will be a division, that a group of people who are majority in number will read in Anganwadi. Who will read them? Who will teach them? Nobody knows till that. But the policy they have already implemented. Every day, the central government is trying to impose one or other type of policy through agencies like UGC. UGC has become an agency now. They are giving one or another type of instruction day by day. Do this, do this, do this, do this. But, you know, there is no grants for research, higher education. Even we are here in Jadavpur University few days back. Possibly you have read in paper, the Jadavpur University is trying to collect money from some other sources, that government is not paying money for research. If this is the situation, then when the NEP 2020 will be fully implemented, you can easily understand this is a completely
completely manipulated thing. We have mentioned it clearly in different conferences that this education policy has been made by the private parties, corporate houses, businessmen. They have made this thing, and the central government has given some of or appointed some of the teachers, including the chairman, just to put their signature. That go on, every day privatization. You have money, you can get education. No money, no education. So 50%, more than 50% people, they have no money, so they will not get no education. And that was the pain of Dr. Anish Ray. In every meeting, he uttered two names. Raja Ram Mohan Roy, what he wanted, this government, even in this education policy, they have not mentioned anything about Raja Ram Mohan Roy, who was actually the torchbearer of Indian reformation or Indian education reform also. And second man was Pandit Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Because that gentleman tried to implement the modern education at that time, but this government is trying to take it back. So I will not take more time. I'll just read few sentences from a very important letter, and then I'll conclude. This is from a very important letter written by a person. You may know the name of the person. From the reading you can understand. The Sanskrit system of education would be the best calculated to keep country in darkness if such had been the policy of the British legislature. But as the improvement of the native population is the object of the government, it will consequently promote a more liberal and enlightened system of instruction, embracing mathematics, natural philosophy, chemistry, anatomy with other useful sciences which may be accomplished with the sums proposed by employing a few gentlemen of learning educated in Europe and providing a college furnished with the necessary books, infrastructure and other apparatus. Possibly you can understand the person who wrote this letter. This letter was written in the year 1823. The writer was Raja Ram Mohan Roy. He was not then at Raja, he was Ram Mohan Roy. This letter was addressed to Lord Amherst. He at that time, he thought that what would be the better thing for Indian education? Not that old thing, but bring the new things. Dr. Ray mentioned the name of Dr. Ram Mohan Roy, Raja Ram Mohan Roy, as well as Pandit Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar in every meeting, only to focus that this government is trying to take this country 1,000 years back. So, as it has been mentioned, that this letter is the Magna Carta of modern education in India. But this education system has denied all these things. So what is our future? We can easily understand. At this crucial juncture, we lost the most important person who was trying to take us in the battlefield as a general, and we was his follower, but we lost our general. But remember, some of them, some from us should come up to take step so that we can remember him, not by mentioning few words in the form of condolences, but taking hints from or inspirations from his unfinished work. We must proceed forward. We must try to resist this government to withdraw their saffronization agenda, to withdraw their capitalization, this centralization agenda and privatization agenda. And that will be the true homage to Professor Anish Ray. From my personal behalf, I pay my tribute to departed soul and my condolences to his family. That is the few words I can just mention here.
Thank you, Professor Chakraborty. I like to mention that Professor Anish Rai's wife, his son, his daughter, and other family members have just reached this auditorium. Now I request Professor George Joseph, Vice President of AISEC, to pay his homage. Professor George Joseph from Kerala.
Dear comrades of All India Civic Education Committee, Mr. Prof. George Joseph, President of All India Civic Education Committee Kerala, chapter expressed our deep felt condolences at the sad demise of our All India General Secretary, Professor when we needed him most. His style of unflinching loyalty and a commitment to the task he was entrusted to by All India Civic Education Committee was really remarkable. He held our flag high even in his hospital bed. His draft against the imposition of Hindi as official language by the Union government was from the hospital where he was admitted last. He believed free and quality education as the birthright of every child, and it is the prime obligation of every national government to provide its child with education, ensuring equity and access. His skills for writing was so prolific that he was an author in his mother tongue as well as in English. His thoughts, he was a friend and philosopher to me, providing sincere and prudent encouragement in every educational endeavors and initiatives from our end. Some person's sincerity to what he stood for make him a wonderfully unique fighter leader. To conclude, I should say that the loss that has come to us is irreparable and deep. Let us hold his ideals high and virtues close to our hands. Marching on to our cherished goals shall be the worthy homage to his everlasting memories with us. Thank you all.
The net connection. We could not listen to Professor Joseph's speech fully. I now request Professor Miratul Nahar. She is member of Presidium ABACC and advisor of AISEC. Professor Nahar.
Only a few months back, I met Dr. Professor Anish Rai in Delhi. I had a very sweet memory of a long conversation with him, especially regarding his personal life, his physical, the physical difficulties at that time he had to face, and so many memories he had about his childhood, about his student life, his professor life, so many aspects of his life. Especially that day, I was a listener and I had to listen to so many facts of his life with respect. I felt that he's not well regarding his physical well being. His physical health was broken one, but he is a fighter in that aspect also. He had to fight, and I think he had to fight. He had a fight with success. So many difficulties, so many physical inabilities he had to bear, but with this wide smile in his face. This is not possible for a normal human being. Every human being has various aspects of his human life. He had also. We can remember those aspects, but it's not the time, not the moment to remember those, at least at this moment. I remember him with heavy heart and thinking much about one material fact, that is, loss of such a human being in our country, where at this moment I consider it as a misfortune that we had to make a committee called Safe Education Committee in a free country like India. We have to save our education. There are so many things to save in our country, but when the time comes to save the education, the field of education, it's a great fortune for a nation. Professor Dr. Anish Rai was a great fighter in this respect. He took the leadership to make the committee run in a way very praiseworthy. He lived a life worth living. All human beings are not do not become so successful as he became. As a student, he was very meritorious, talented. As a teacher, he was sincere and loved by his students. As a countryman, he fought for his country. He had a fight for removing all the evils made by our countrymen who are called the leaders of the country. It's their function to make all the evils, and it was the function of personalities like Dr. Rai to erase all the evils with all their strength. He was like that. From the beginning to the end of his life, he had a fighting life. What he got and what he got by his birth and what he achieved as a human being, all he spent with great success all through his life. Only thing which pains me is that a leader like him had to face so many pain, had to bear so many pains regarding ill health. Why don't they take care? before their physical well-being? This is the question, and I'm putting this question to the leaders of your political organization, associate organization. They never take care of their physical well-being. They fight against everything, against all the evils, but not against the evil which make them unwell physically. This is my experience with most of the leaders who acted very well as personalities, as member of the organization, associate political organization. But they never take care of their own well-being, physical well-being. It is very sad. Sad for us who still stay in the world. They have left. They have left with their success in various fields. But what we are now living with, staying with our mournful heart. They could have lived for more days as they have lived before that. He left before the time when he had to leave. He was supposed to leave. It is very painful for us. For me, I cannot remove those memories, particularly in Delhi. I just cannot imagine that he is no more in the world, he is no more with us. I cannot imagine. So I can feel the loss, feel the sorrows who his family members are bearing. I share their sorrows with them. He was my own family member. I feel like that. And that is his success. That is the success a human being can achieve in his life. When other people who are other, not their own people, become own, that is the success of a human being. And that in that respect it succeeded. Professor Dr. Anish, I will never forget him. I pay my homage to him.
Thank you, Miratundi. I now request Professor Alam Prabhu Bettaduru, President of Karnataka Chapter of All India Civic Education Committee. Professor Bettaduru, online.
Hello. 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 Hello.
You are audible.
Hello.
You are audible. Please continue. You are audible.
Please continue. You are audible. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am longing to share my personal memories, the time which I spent with Anish Roy sir. Actually, I got favorable opportunity to meet Anish Roy sir the time when I went to Delhi to oppose the new educational policy of Indian United Government, as we both stayed in youth hostel for 2 days. The broken Hindi language was means of communication in between of us. He was wearing brilliant white dress as like his transparent personality. We both met very first time, but we each other reacted and interacted like an oldest relatives with so much of love and concern. I was having brief introduction about Bengali culture, but my uncle B. Shankar Gowda has did drawing course in the University of Shantiniketan, which has been established by Rabindranath Tagore. The people of Bengal are known for simplicity and creative mind. Especially, I like the way they show deep love for their language and culture equally. My beloved friend Baswaraj Akalwadi has promised me to take me to Bengal at the time of greatest occasion because their youngest brother was settled in North India for the sake of profession. Even though I was unable to visit Bengal due to the reason I have lost my best friend, who was assured me to take. But but I fulfilled my desire through Anish Rai, as I understood about him in shortest time that he is a clear thinker and creative fighter. We both became very close in shorter time by having tea, tiffin, and meals togetherly. He was getting very early. We both communicated so interestingly in broken Hindi language. His decent and simple personality is highly admired and unforgettable. Even I am more influenced by his thinkings, thoughts, and customs, as well as brightest white color. At present, we have lost the best guide in an educational moment due to their demise. Hence, I show the lost respectful regards. Thanks.
Thank you, Professor. I now request Dr. N. Chandrasekhar, Vice President of AISEC from AP, Andhra Pradesh. Professor Dr. N. Chandrasekhar.
Delhi. And the moment I met him, I could feel the positive vibes which any leader will be having an impact on all the followers around him. Professor Roy, he was a warrior in the struggle for pursuit of the best educational practices and policies for the children and youth of India. He always fought against the policies of government to keep away education from the shackles of imperialist and capitalist exploitation. His thought process was always in the classical tradition of renowned revolutionaries such as Karl Marx, Leon Trotsky, Rosa Luxemburg, and Nelson Mandela. Professor Anish Rai, he was a great friend, a great comrade, a great organizer, a great thinker, a great teacher, a great orator, a great leader, a great humanist, a great visionary, a social and personable character, and above all, a great and outstanding Marxist and socialist. Prof. Anish Kumar Rai lived an exemplary life, which demonstrates what it means to be human. Let us all strive to make his dreams stay alive and take a shape for the best educational practices and policies for the children and youth of India. Let us all carry on his legacy in true spirit. One final suggestion I have to make. His death anniversary on 29th November every year may be celebrated in a befitting manner appropriate to his ideals and which would be a true homage to the great soul. Lal Salam. Thank you.
N. Chandrasekhar. Now I request Professor Virendra Naik, Vice President AISEC from Odisha. Professor Virendra Naik.
Mr. President of this memorial meeting, thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you and others present or connected my grief and sorrow that I felt on passing away of Professor Anish Kumar Roy on 29th November of this year. We knew each other in person for a very brief period, hardly a month or two before the onset of corona epidemic. He had come to address a convention of teachers organized by DTO, followed by All India Civ Education Committee, Odisha State Convention. This brief encounter with him was enough to impress him as a affectionate person and one who was committed to the cause of education. But before I came to know him in person, I had read a profound article, Vidyasagar on education. And he had written this article for Golden Book of Vidyasagar, published almost 30 years before in the year 1993. An erudite scholar he was in geology, an impressive teacher. I learnt later that his scholarship had gone beyond to cover literature, history, foreign affairs, film, and broader aspects of education. We lost him when he was required most to face the onslaught of new education policy that is going to block the growth of education based on scientific, democratic, and secular values. His energetic involvement in organizing and strengthening All India Civ Education Committee had been quite baffling to me, as he never appeared to have worn down by his advanced age. When All India Civ Education Committee was getting its steam and taking off, unfortunately, the pilot was snatched away from us. But we will not allow All India Civ Education Committee to lose its steam acquired under the stewardship of Professor Ray. And this would be the greatest tribute to the memory of Professor Ray. I pay my respectful homage to the memory of Professor Ray on behalf of All India Civ Education Committee, Odisha unit. Thank you. Thanks, Subhijita.
Thank you, Professor Naik. Now I request Professor Narendra Sharma, a retired professor of Delhi University, Vice President of AISEC. He will speak from our Delhi auditorium where similar program is going on. Professor Narendra Sharma.
Dr. Anish Ray, he was a man of science, and he looked everything from history to society's development, his thoughts on religion, his thoughts on all aspects of education were full of democratic and secular approach to education. I had a very little chance of meeting him once, but the seriousness and the courage and determination which he reflected in one meeting with me, I realized that he is a man of extraordinary character. Dr. Ray, he was representative of collective effort, collectivity which emerged out of AISEC team. He emerged as a collective leader. And that is what we all must understand, that if every one of us place our aim at what he has done and what we are supposed to do, I think we can in this country create a big tumult against, a big challenge against the onslaught on education, which this government and earlier governments also tried to follow. But this latest developments in education on destroying English, denying it to the people, and imposing Hindi is a very, very, very dangerous trend, because it will destroy not only scientific approach, but it will also destroy different fields of education, whether it is medical or it is technical education, or it is engineering education, or it is social sciences. Everywhere, the kind of history or kind of things they are manufacturing, that is denial of what really development is. And if we want to really defend today the emerging trend and save our future generations and civilization, I think this struggle of us will also take a message internationally, because today this is a policy of imperialism, this is a policy of World Bank, this is a policy by which education has been privatized and destroyed for common people. So I will say that we all stand together and fight this policy as one man, and this aim which our leader has left for us, we will definitely succeed in fighting this. And with this, I pay my homage and respectful homage and to our departed leader. And I think I conclude here. That is what I felt from the core of my heart. And I think till the last breath of my life, as Dr. Anish Roy, he tried to worked hard for educational cause in this country. We all of us will do that till the last breath of our life. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Sharma. Now I request Dr. Ghanshyam Nath from Assam. He is advisor of AISEC. Dr. Ghanshyam Nath.
Hello. 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 Am I audible?
Dr. Nath, you are audible. Please continue.
I can speak. Hello. I can start.
You can start. You can start.
Okay.
Please start.
Yes. Good afternoon to all of you. I, on behalf of Assam State Committee of All India Safe Education Committee, offer my heartfelt condolence for the sad demise of our beloved leader, Professor Anish Kumar Roy, retired professor of Presidency College, and more particularly and more particularly the guiding spirit of AISEC and fighting against evil of education. He died of cardiac arrest on 29th November this year at the evening time at the age of 79. As I know, he was a successful teacher and good companion of youth and leader of educational movement. Professor Anish Kumar Roy was the General Secretary of All India Safe Education Committee from 2014 to till his death. He successfully led the organization for last 8 years. He was the real fighter for the cause of education. He arranged various online programs to fight the evils of NEP 2020. He visited different parts of India and inspired the education-loving people across the country. Despite having physical problem, he attended webinars from hospital with the permissions of the doctors. Really, we are unfortunate that we have lost Professor Anish Kumar Roy, when his untiring spirit is necessary to compel the government to stop the implementation of NEP 2020. Today, we respectfully remember his contributions of the movement against NEP 2020. If we cannot stop the government, then all of us have to suffer in the long run. If government is implementing the NEP 2020, then 90% of the people will be illiterate in the long run. Therefore, I urge upon all of you that we must carry out the agenda of All India Safe Education Committee in order to pay high homage to Professor Anish Kumar Roy. I do offer my heartfelt condolence to the bereaved family members of Dr. Roy. With these words, I conclude here, thanking you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nath.
Okay.
Now I request Devashish Rai, Secretariat Member of AISEC. Considering the large gathering here, may I request Devashish Rai to speak in Bengali? I have talked with President Professor Debojyoti Mukherjee, and he has also agreed to my point that Devashish Rai should speak in Bengali.
Respected President of this condolence meeting, and the members of Safe Education committees who has gathered here as a viewing throughout the country, and friends. As I have been requested to speak in Bengali, but I was supposed to speak in Hindi. Shall I?
Combine. Bengali, Hindi combined. If you are comfortable.
Anyway, অনিশদাকে আমি 50 বছর ধরে চিনি। হায়ার সেকেন্ডারি পরীক্ষার পর প্রথম যখন প্রেসিডেন্সি কলেজে ভর্তি হওয়ার জন্য গিয়েছিলাম ফর্ম তুলতে, অনিশদার সাথেই আলাপ হয়েছিল। তারপর দীর্ঘ এতগুলো বছর কেটেছে। আমি তার এই দীর্ঘ জীবনের কথা ওখানে বলতেও পারবো না। সেটা ধ্রুবদা আছেন না, টুডেজ প্রেসিডেন্ট, আজকের যে প্রেসিডেন্ট, তিনি বলবেন। আমি শেষ দিনকার যে ঘটনাগুলো সেটা আমি এখানে রাখবো, এবং সেই অংশটুকু আমি হিন্দিতেই বলতে চাই। 11 तारीख 11 नवंबर को अनिशदा ने हॉस्पिटल में एडमिटेड हुए क्रिटिकल इलनेस के कारण। दूसरे दिन हम गए थे उनको मिलने के लिए। उस दिन वो क्रिटिकल केयर यूनिट में थे, हम लोग ग्लास क्यूबिकल के मतलब जो केबिन में थे उसके बाहर से ने थोड़ा बहुत बातचीत किए। उन्होंने पूछ रहा था कि अभी आगे जो कार्यक्रम है उसके बारे में क्या तैयारी चल रही है। ज्यादा बात नहीं कर पाए। उस दिन हम वापस चले आए। इसकी 2 दिन के बाद डॉक्टर से मैंने पूछा था। डॉक्टर से बोले अभी जांच हो रही है, क्या स्थिति है हम 2-3 दिन के बाद बताएंगे। तो 2-3 दिन के बाद ये पता चला कि ये जो बीमारी है ये ठीक नहीं होने वाला है। और अनिशदा को उस समय मैंने कई बार हॉस्पिटल में गए, इसलिए और भी गए कि अनिशदा को ज्यादा दिन तक हम देख नहीं पाएंगे। लेकिन मैं एक बात कहूंगा, अनिशदा, मैं उनसे अनिशदा के दादा दादा ही थे हमारे। मैं तरुण और जो जूनियर साथी थे जिनके साथ वो हमेशा एक्सचेंज करते थे, किसी भी एक स्टेटमेंट, आप लोग ये जानते हैं ये कंडोलेंस रेजोल्यूशन में भी आया है कि हमारे जितने सारे डॉक्यूमेंट तैयार हुए उसमें 99% या 95% उनका ही योगदान है। तो जब भी कुछ तैयार करते थे वो हम लोग के पास भेजते थे। जब तक हम लोग नहीं हाँ करेंगे तब तक वो ग्रुप में देंगे नहीं। हम उनसे काफी जूनियर थे, हर चीज के हर मामले में हम लोग जूनियर थे उनसे। फिर भी उन्होंने हमसे सलाह मशवरा करते थे। हमारे जो बात है, हमारे जो सजेशन है, इसको मर्यादा देते थे। इस तरह जो काम करने की तरीका, ये जो कलेक्टिव फंक्शनिंग ये हम देखें, ये बहुत सरल या सहज काम नहीं है। दूसरी चीज यह है कि जब ये समझ गए कि वो ज्यादा दिन तक रहेंगे नहीं, 26 तारीख को जब हम 26 नवंबर आप मिले, उसका उनका ये चल रहा था, मतलब आर्टिफिशियल रेस्पिरेटरी सिस्टम बाईपास। उन्होंने हमसे कुछ बात करना चाह रहे थे। डॉक्टर ने आकर के उनका वो मास्क हटाया। उन्होंने पूछे कि हमारे जो ऑनलाइन वेबिनार होने वाला है, जिस तरह हिंदी को थोपा जा रहा है, इम्पोज किया जा रहा है एज ए मीडियम ऑफ इंस्ट्रक्शन एज वेल एज एन ऑफिशियल लैंग्वेज इंस्ट्रक्शन, तो इसके खिलाफ जो सेमिनार हो रही है इसकी तैयारी कैसे चल रही है। देखिए, ये ऐसे हमारे जनरल सेक्रेटरी थे जो मृत्यु के पहले भी सोच रहे हैं जो कार्यक्रम है उसकी तैयारी कैसे चले। ये कैसा ये बातों बातों में जब आए ये बोले कि रिकॉर्डिंग हो रही है, तो ये लोग हमको सोचते हैं और आप वापस जाए बोले कि आपको उस सपना का अगर साकार बनाने के लिए हम लोग संघर्ष नहीं करें, कूद पड़ेंगे, नहीं कूद पड़ेंगे, तो सही माने में हम श्रद्धा से नहीं कर सकते। कि सेव एजुकेशन मूवमेंट को आगे बढ़ाना, किसी भी हालत में जो इस देश की जो केंद्रीय सरकार जिस तरीके से मोस्ट अनडेमोक्रेटिक एंड फैसिस्टिक वे they are implementing this undemocratic fascistic education policy, उन लोगों का जो एजेंडा है शिक्षा की बाजारीकरण, शिक्षा की सांप्रदायिकीकरण, शिक्षा की वाणिज्यिकीकरण, व्यवसायीकरण, टू कमर्शियलाइज, टू प्राइवेटाइज, टू सैफ्रोनाइज एजुकेशन, बहुत तेज गति से कोशिश कर रहा है। तो अगर सेव एजुकेशन कमेटी के कार्यकर्ता के होने के नाते अगर इसके खिलाफ हम लोग हमारी जितनी ताकत है, प्रोफेसर अनीश दा ने आखिरी सांस तक, आखिरी दिन और आखिरी सांस तक संघर्ष किए, इससे सबक लेते हुए, इससे सीख लेते हुए अगर इस सेव एजुकेशन मूवमेंट को हम आगे नहीं बढ़ाएंगे तो उन लोग का साथी, उनकी साथी होने का, उनका कॉमरेड इन आर्म्स होने का लायक हम लोग नहीं हो, काबिल नहीं हो। तो आइए उनकी सपना को हम साकार करें। अनीश दा ऐसा एक व्यक्ति थे, मेरे 50 साल की सोशल मूवमेंट के में से 50 साल से मैं इस मूवमेंट में शामिल, ऐसे बहुत सारे लोग हैं जिनके साथ काम करने में बहुत ही आनंद आया। अनीश दा इसमें से एकदम पहला कतार में है, जिनके साथ काम करने में मतलब उन्हें सेक्रेटरी बनने के बाद जो कुछ साल हम एक साथ काम किए, मुझे इतना आनंद मिला। आइए सेव एजुकेशन कमिटी परिवार की तरह हम लोग आनंद के साथ इस जो संघर्ष है इस संघर्ष को और जुझारू बनाए और ताकतदार बनाए, तभी प्रोफेसर अनिश राय के प्रति हमारे रेस्पेक्ट हम दिखा सकते हैं, श्रद्धासुमन अर्पण कर सकते हैं. Then only we can pay our real tribute to him. If we can continue our struggle, the banner which he upheld, that we can continue. I pay my respect to Professor Anish Kumar Rai, our beloved General Secretary.
Now, President Professor Dhrubajyoti Mukherjee will speak.
To speak at the memorial meeting of Professor Anish Kumar Rai is very painful for me. I have known him for nearly 60 years, not very casually, but we closely worked together in the college, in teaching, in social movements, cultural movements, political movements. He was my comrade in arms for these long 60 years. It's very difficult for me to reconcile myself that he has left us. I remember vividly when I first joined the Presidency College in 1964. Anish was my first batch of MSc students. He has brilliant intellectual capacity, and I was impressed by his intellect, his tenacity, and his attention to details. He had a brilliant academic career, and very soon he joined, after passing the MSc examination, he joined the Presidency College as a young teacher. I was also, I think I was just teaching for 1 year before him, or 2 years before him. So we had dreams of becoming good scientists, good teachers, but both of us were thinking that how, as scientists, we can serve our social commitments. So Anish and I together went to a number of people for guidance, that what can we do? We cannot leave science, we cannot leave teaching, but we have an urge to do something for this society. What can we do? So in this quest, through a common friend, we came to know about the cultural organization Pothikrit, which was committed to building up a progressive cultural movement, a progressive revolutionary cultural movement in the country. And they had discussion sittings. So Anish and I started to go to these discussion sittings where diverse topics were discussed. Manik Mukherjee, who was the editor of the magazine Pothikrit, used to conduct those discussion meetings. And Pothikrit published a magazine, Bengali magazine Pothikrit, and a few years later started publishing the English magazine Trend. So Anish, and apart from that, it also did some programs also. It observed the anniversary celebrations of Rabindranath, Sharat Chandra, Nazru, the leading personalities of the Indian Renaissance. And also it took up some progressive cultural movements. So Anish, both of us got very attracted to this type of activities. And one of the important cultural movements which Pathikrit undertook at that time was a massive signature campaign against obscenity in literature. So Anish and I went on the streets collecting signatures from the people passing on the streets. And both of us had to overcome our inhibitions as scientists and professors at a most prestigious college in Calcutta to stand on the street and ask for the signatures of passing people. So, but Anish had no hesitation in doing that. And at this time, while he was, and he had a very facile pen, he had a very powerful pen, both in English and Bengali. So he started writing for the magazine Pathikrit, and after a few years later, a magazine Trend. And while he was doing these things, he came in touch with the writings of Siddharth Ghosh and his speeches in some programs, and also personally contact. So that made a tremendous impact on him. And that was the turning point of his life. He tried to organize his life in a completely different way from what he was doing earlier. He devoted his time to the teaching. He was an excellent teacher, very beloved by the students. So there was no compromise in that way. But his involvement with the social movements, with the people's, with the movements outlining the people's demands, the people's day-to-day problems, became more and more close. And as he, with the time, as he wrote in both the English and Bengali magazines and participated in the movements, his intellectual activities started to broaden. I will just say that what a diverse topics on such different topics he wrote in Trend. I was just going through some old issues of Pathikrit and Trend, and I was amazed at what different topics he could write so incisively, so analytically, and bring out a new way of looking out the problems, which he always claimed he got from the teachings of Siddharth Ghosh and the leadership of Manik Mukherjee. This acknowledgement was always there. But I'll just say, just for to give you an idea, that the breadth of his knowledge and the breadth of his writings. He wrote on literary topics. He wrote on Maxim Gorky, his artistry. He wrote on Nazrul. He wrote on Sharat Chandra's political thoughts, a very unusual topic for those days. People talked about Sharat Chandra's literary craft, his novels, characters of his novels, but he wrote very enlightening article on Sharat Chandra's political thoughts. He wrote on films. He had special attraction towards films and dramas. So he wrote on the art of Satyajit Ray, And I would request you, if you have any opportunity to go through that article, you will find that a new way of looking at the art of Satyajit Ray. He showed that how Satyajit Ray broke new grounds in Indian cinema, but at the same time, he also brought out the philosophical inadequacies in Satyajit Ray's films. It made a very tremendous impact among the readers in those days. And he wrote on Attenborough's Gandhi, which was a very well-known film. And his intellect became very apparent when he published several reviews of books in Pothikrit and Trend. And those reviews, it was not just a summary of the book. While reviewing the book, he would discuss the general line relating to this book and how this problem should be viewed, what the author has done, what is his strength, what is his weakness, how this problem should be. It was a real analytical piece of writing. And one particular one which made a very great impact on me was his review on a book by Felix Green on The Enemy, which is about the how the corporate economy and the corporate culture is attacking the human civilization. So this book he reviewed very perceptively for Trend in those days, about in 1970s sometime. Education, of course, was his very subject close to his heart. He wrote articles on commercialization of education. He wrote articles on Vidyasagar and secular education. And he was invited by the Golden Book of Vidyasagar to write on Vidyasagar's and education for the Golden Book, which has been referred to by Virendra Nayak from Orissa. He wrote also on political topics. He wrote on cultural imperialism. He wrote on when Iraq war happened, he wrote on the imperialism and its warmongering and how imperialist economy has to depend on militarization of economy. He wrote on French Revolution. He wrote on the life struggle of Ho Chi Minh. I am mentioning all these topics because I want to stress that writing on these different topics played a role in sharpening his intellectual acumen, which those of you who were associated with him during the Save Education movement, you must have been impressed by his breadth of knowledge and how incisive his analytical theme is. So these grounds for this were built during his days of Pothikrit and afterwards. As I said, he did not, while taking part devotedly in all social movements, he did not neglect his teaching. He presented a very dreadful subject which was dreadful for the students, paleontology, which was thought to be a very descriptive subject, not very interesting. He taught paleontology in a completely different way and created such an interest among the students that afterwards many of the best students in the class would take up paleontology as their subjects of specialization. So, but he was good, not just in his science and his classroom. He also looked after the intellectual development, the moral development, the cultural development of the students. He had tremendous love and affection of the students, and they always talked with them as their friends, as their guardians, and tried to inculcate in them a higher cultural standard, higher moral values, attraction to noble ideology. So, this high moral and cultural standard that he reflected in himself, and he tried to transmit that to his students. This is what endeared him most to his students. And if any of you had attended the memorial meeting at the President's College at his department, you must have seen that how dearly the students are feeling, or how strongly they are feeling his loss. Many of them burst out into tears while talking about him. So, as I mentioned, that he involved himself in various political and social movements, the Pothicrid's cultural movements. He was a part of that in the short centenaries program during the time of emergency. He could do not open political activities, but worked in the cultural field. He was interested in the education movement. When we were first entered the Presidency College as teachers, there was no teachers association. The government did not permit any teachers association. When the United Front government came, the democratic space was slightly broadened, and Anish, along with others, took initiative to form the Government College Teachers Association in those days. So from the very beginning, Anish was associated with the Government College Teachers Association, and when the Save Education movement started, Anish devoted himself heart and soul to it, very intimately involved with it. When Deepak Sinha was the General Secretary, Dipankar Rai was the General Secretary, and Professor Sushil Mukherjee and Justice Krishna Iyer, they were associated with the Save Education movement. So Anish started to be involved with the movements in the Save Education movement. And afterwards, when Professor Gauri Shankar Rai took up after Bharushar Mukherjee took up after Dipankar Rai's untimely death. And then Professor Ghatak also died soon in 2014, nearly after 2 years. And then Anish was elected as the General Secretary. And those of you who are associated with the General Secretary, you must have seen that how Anish led the fight from the front. He always took up voluntarily many tasks which others would not take. When something would come up in the discussion meetings, who will do this? He would volunteer himself. And almost all the documents of the Save Education Committee, since he became General Secretary, were drafted by him. And he was when the time of COVID pandemic, he did not sit idle. He said that we must carry out the movement online through webinars, and he himself participated in the webinars. And you might have seen, many of you might have seen that how even when he was ill from the hospital bed, he himself participated in the webinars. And in the last example, which Devashish Rai has already mentioned, that when this central government's onslaught on Hindi came, Anish wrote the overall line that the Safe Education Committee should take, and the general language policy which Safe Education Committee should adopt and propagate. That was drafted in a masterly fashion by Anish on from the hospital bed. And as Devashish said, that just 2 days before his death, he was inquiring that what is happening about that webinar. Is everything going all right? I cannot take part. The doctors will not permit me to take part in the webinar. But can I listen? But he was not able to listen also because the doctors did not permit that. And this was the last task that he found. Till his death, Safe Education Committee, its activities was foremost in his mind. So it's very difficult for me to accept that Anish is not with us. Personally, this is a great loss for me. In all my activities, I could depend on Anish to provide me with help and guidance. He was my leader in the Pothekrit organization. And afterwards, whenever I needed something, I needed any help, I could simply take up the phone and call Anish. Anish, can you help me in doing this thing? Can you find out this and that? So it's very difficult that that is no more for me. It's very difficult for me to accept that. So I don't know in my future days where will I get the help that I got from Anish. So till the remaining days I live, I will miss the presence of Anish. I pay my deepest respect to him and pledge that I should devote myself to fulfill his dream of bringing about a equitable society in our country where people would have access, all sections of people would have access to education. And the only way, as Devashish also said, the only way we can really pay respect to Anish is to taking the pledge to carry forward this struggle which he carried out till his last days. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming to this memorial meeting. So with this, I declare the closure of this meeting. Thank you.